Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Q&A session. We're going to talk all about AI today. If you have any questions about using AI, questions, concerns, what you're thinking about, I'll leave them in the chat and I'll be sure to address those while we're together today. I think the big topic this week is should I move from ChatGPT to Claude? I did put a video out about that, but I'm here to answer any of your questions about those two tools. And during today's live stream, I'm going to talk about some of the main questions that people have about using AI, especially in their business. I'm going to speak to how I'm personally leveraging AI to continue to help me with efficiencies and saving time, and also just to avoid having to hire employees. So if you have any questions about AI, how you're using it in your business now, I'll leave them in the chat. My name is Cree Edholm. I am the host of the Thrive Smarter podcast, and I just launched a new community called Thrive Solopreneur Collective. If you follow here on YouTube or if you're following our social media, what we'll do is I'll be talking about certain topics here, and then we'll continue the conversation over in the community over at community.thrivesoloco.com. So this is a place for solopreneurs to gather, to connect with others, and to also get support in your business. I started my first business 10 years ago. Uh, January was my 10-year anniversary. I left my corporate career behind and launched my first business 10 years ago. When I did that, my goal was to not ever have to hire employees. Um, for me personally, hiring employees means that I also have to worry about paying people, and I like to be able to sleep at night. So what I do is I don't hire employees directly. If I need to, add any resources to a specific project, I love to work with other small businesses or other solopreneurs. They are an expertise in whatever area they represent, and so I like to pull in resources that way. There's also things like Fiverr and Upwork. I use those cautiously, but that's essentially how I expand my business. That's just a little bit about me. Apart from Thrive, I also own a video marketing agency. I have an extensive background in video production and also marketing. And as we all know, video is key to marketing initiatives and campaigns. So that's what I do. Tuning in from Las Vegas. It's a windy day in Vegas today. It's going to start getting warm here pretty soon. But that is a little bit about me. Let me know in the chat where you're joining from, and we're going to run through just some basic questions about AI. Now, when it comes to the question of whether or not you're going to move from ChatGPT to Claude, I think a lot of us signed up for ChatGPT when it first came out, and I'm just going to emphasize what I've already covered in a previous video, but it's just so relevant to everybody here. We are early adopters in the AI landscape. Because this technology is so new, it's going to be changing all the time. And I think from a business owner's perspective, we want to leverage AI and we want to leverage our time uh, to make it as efficient as possible. So if we are moving tools and moving back and forth all the time, I think that we need to question whether or not that's going to impact your efficiency. And because we are in the early stages of AI and its usage, things change all the time. So one week, ChatGPT might give you better results or results that you happen to personally like more. And then, vice versa. Claude could be doing the same thing. I did share a little bit about my business background. So my first job out of college was with a .com, more specifically with PurchasePro.com. And if you were around during those times, Purchase Pro was very big in the news. It was a big uh, a big component of the .com crash. So I say that because that's been a core part of my career and my career story is working in environments with new technology. I have an understanding of where we've been, where we're going. I have been around to see new technology develop and evolve. And that's kind of where my perspective is coming from is I'm comfortable here. I'm comfortable in this space. I'm comfortable with new tech. I really enjoy being an early adopter. I like to experiment and explore and learn about these tools. So that's why I'm really loving this new AI landscape. Of course, there are some downsides, but here's the thing: companies in the US, tech companies specifically in the US, really don't have any restrictions. We know this because social media companies, since their inception, there really aren't any laws and or regulations to usage. So I think there are some privacy concerns for people. There's also some safety and ethical concerns for people. So I think that if those things are important to you, it's something that you can certainly take into consideration when you're using different tools. But earlier this week, I talked about ChatGPT, how they had a contract with the US government. Excuse me, Anthropic with Claude had a contract with the US government. They kind of drew a line in the sand and said, you know what, we're not going to cross a certain line when it comes to privacy rules because there are no laws. There's no it's up to the company to decide how they're going to operate from an ethical perspective, and they've already backed off of that. So I just think that we're going to continue to see this with AI specifically. I would just prepare as a business owner to understand that there are no laws and regulations or privacy, anything with these tools. So take that for what it's worth. It is part of the risk of using these types of tools, these open tools, and that's kind of what you should consider. Now, in terms of moving back and forth, because things are changing so much, I'm just going to reiterate, if you have already invested in a tool and just because a new tool is out now, I would try to avoid the shiny object syndrome of moving back and forth a lot. I would, if you like the tool that you're in and it's working for you, you have a nice workflow, I would just stay there for now as we continue to see things evolve. For newbies, if you have not started investing in a tool and you're new to I think that Claude is a great way to get started. They've done such a great job with their usability, their UI interface. It's easy to get started, it's easy to understand, whereas I think that ChatGPT is a little more daunting. There's Gemini, there's all sorts of different platforms out there, but it's really up to you to decide where you wanna be, and at the end of the day, you wanna save time in your money or with your money and in your business, so, just avoid hopping around a lot right now. I'm hopping around a lot because I'm experimenting with these different tools, but I'm also seeing similar results in anything that I am putting into these tools, so there's that. I mean, sometimes the results look different because of the way it's presented, but the information is still pretty much there. And as a business owner, I'm not just copy and pasting whatever comes straight out of results out of any AI tool. I'm using it more as an assistant and making adjustments. I want it to have my brand name, my brand voice. I want to make sure the thoughts are coming from me and not being pulled in from all of the random information that's out on the internet. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm going to go over some key themes with AI. And I think these are the big concerns that people have when using these tools. And I'm just going to oversimplify. We are using generative AI. So if you are using a general tool like ChatGPT or Claude, they're essentially grabbing data from whatever is out and free and available. And my assumption is that that's primarily from the internet, and it does its best to bring that information together in a way that answers whatever prompt you're giving it, or whatever question you're posing to that tool. Now, because it's pulling from any information that's out there, it means that if you're sharing your information, which we all have been on social media and on the internet for decades now, um, then that's where the privacy concerns come into play. So again, it's up to you to decide what you want to do. There is a way to build kind of like uh, private environments. So, for instance, an example would be the healthcare industry. If you are a healthcare company and you have a bunch of data that's related to patient information, any type of medical information that your company has specifically invested in, like research, medications, just spitballing off the top of my head here. And those are more like closed loop environments. So you can build those out, and it's important to understand the difference because you as a business owner, you can build out your own private environment that you're just giving the 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 information. It's when you put a prompt in, it's only pulling from whatever data set you're allowing it to pull from, and ChatGPT and Claude are pulling from everywhere. And that's important for you to understand because if you put in a prompt and another business owner puts in a prompt, guess what? These tools are pulling from the same data set. So that's why things are really sounding similar online. And my advice to any of you is to, if you've been doing it, stop copying and pasting from whatever tool you're using and just putting it out there. You, as a business owner, should have final say and control over all of your content, all of your assets. So just be mindful of that and understand that that's what generative AI is now. These tools generally aren't thinking for themselves. Like you can't feed it a task and say, "Hey, here's come up with 52 weeks worth of content and update it based on the latest current events and create the designs and just manage my social media strategy for me so I never have to touch it." It's not what these tools are doing. It cannot think in those terms, but what it can do is if you give it a prompt and some context, then it can give you a plan and it'll give you social media posts, but it can't change and think on the fly. You still have to go in and make changes to your content along the way, is just as one example. So, the types of use cases that I'm using AI for is helping me to automate items, and it doesn't automate it for me. It'll tell me how to set up automations. And this is great because companies don't talk well to each other. So, if you are trying to set up automations using different tools, then this will show you exactly how to do that. And it'll also do it based on whatever your level of expertise is. I also use it to assist in my writing. I really love to use it to brainstorm ideas and then have the tool help me to better organize the idea in a readable way or a way that's comprehensive. So I use it a lot for that. Um, Identifying patterns in data is a great way to use this tool, and that's kind of what I'm doing. You when it comes to Claude or ChatGPT, you can set up integrations and give these tools access to your personal data, like folders on your computer or your Google Workspace. I'm actually not doing that quite yet until that technology is a little more mature. I don't quite feel 100% comfortable. And again, this is all in beta in these tools right now, and it'll say that in the tool. This is in beta, which means it's in testing. And so I'm not giving these tools full access to my information. Also, from a privacy perspective, I don't want to give these tools access to everything that's on my computer or my Google Workspace because, I also have personal things stored on my computer as well. And I don't want to give these tools access to that information. So, from a privacy perspective, you have complete control over the decisions you make, the types of tools you want to use, and then also the type of information that you're feeding and sharing with these tools. So, although these companies don't have any constraints or rules or regulations, you do. So, do whatever is best for you and your business. Uh, Understanding capabilities. So that's what generative AI is, safety and ethics. Reliability. Is AI always right? No. Hallucinations, which I think is a great name for incorrect answers, is that these tools are hallucinating. It surely makes them sound more human like these tools are more human like, and they can certainly feel that way. But, yeah, that's why you should always just double check if you really need accurate data, and are looking for that type of an output. Just double check, make sure that the information is accurate, and then you can also have the tool cite references or resources or wherever they got the information, and that should help you. I will say that, because we are living in a generative AI world, then, the most recent information and data, if you're asking a question to give the most recent data, it's probably gonna be a few years old. So keep that in mind. It's not really going to give, the latest and greatest information when you're prompting the tool. Will AI replace humans? It will. It is already. I think with, assistive tax, because we're early adopters, companies are laying people off and thinking that they can implement AI into the workplace and cut down on, the number of employees that they have or their teams or whatever they're focusing on. I think we're seeing a drastic a layoff numbers right now. But I think realistically, some of those are gonna come back. These companies are gonna realize that it's not always the most efficient, or maybe AI isn't quite ready to be this drastic. So just like anything, we're gonna see the pendulum swing back and forth. It's also gonna continue changing as this technology gets better and better. So kinda hang out and see what happens. Um Implementation. I think I've already covered this. So, what should be considered before using AI, and what are the legal regulatory issues? By the way, I just went into Google and I said, "Hey, most asked questions about using AI right now." So, you can probably do the same search in Google and see exactly what I'm looking at. But implementation, I think I've already covered as well. There just are no legal or regulatory issues. And I think there should be. I think there should be with social media usage. There is that safety aspect, and I think it's dangerous to give any any type of an industry just unfettered access to do whatever they want, especially now that we understand some of the dangers that come along with technology. So, these companies just aren't going to they're just not gonna hold themselves accountable. They're gonna do whatever they need to do to make money, and as I mentioned earlier, we've already seen a really good example of that with, the ChatGPT situation with the US government contracts. Um, you know, ChatGPT is gonna get that business now, or OpenAI, and Anthropic, they're the ones that said, "You know what? We're not going to do this because of privacy concerns," and they've already backed off of that. So, and we see this with social media companies as well. Unless they have to put in certain, certain regulations or certain rules about using their tools, they're not going to do it. So that has to come from a couple different places. It's got to come from us as the users. That's when change will happen, is when users will stand up and say what they want these tech companies to do, or it is something that needs to be implemented from, a law perspective. So we haven't seen laws put in place. It's up to us, the users, to really push back on these companies and protect our own privacy. And so far, there really isn't a big calling for that. So, again, just as a business owner, be aware of what you give these tools, be aware of the environment that you're working in. It's important to understand where this data is coming from. And it's also important to understand that what happens with the data you feed these tools. You can look at the terms and conditions. You can probably look online and really do a little more research to see what they're using with your information. But just be mindful of what you're doing, what you're putting out there, and what you're sharing with these tools from a business owner perspective. So those are the big concerns about AI. And if you are wanting to switch, go for it. Switch tools. But the truth is that Claude might not be here in a month. ChatGPT might not be here in a month. So just use at your own discretion. Be a risk taker. If you're a business owner, you're a risk taker anyway. This might be a space that you're comfortable with anyways. So those are the big AI questions that I have received outside of today's live Q&A. This community is brand new. If you are interested in following along, I invite you to subscribe here on YouTube or follow us on social media at thrivesoloco.com. And then also, if you head over to community.thrivesoloco.com, you can subscribe for free to receive updates about the topics that we are covering in the community. And then if you want to be a part of the conversation and join in and meet other solopreneurs and talk about these items in more detail, then there is a paid option as well to begin doing that. So I invite you to head on over and subscribe to the community, stay updated. I'm really excited to grow this community. I think there is a dire need for connection when it comes to being a solopreneur. I know that I hear from a lot of people that, signing up for courses or downloading another guide, it's just giving you more work. It's just giving you another task. What the focus in this community is going to be is we want to talk through solutions so that you feel like you're getting answers or getting the support and help that you need, and we can help each other in doing that. So that's the purpose of the community, is to connect in an intentional way, but in a way that works for you and your business. I know you're all busy, so that's what that's all about. So go check out the community. I invite you to subscribe. And thanks everybody for tuning in to today's live stream. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time.